Says it wants to simplify how Americans stay up to date on their COVID-19 booster vaccinations. The agency says it wants the process to be more like getting a flu shot. That would mean assessing what COVID strains are circulating in June and then preparing a dose for the fall. The FDA says the plan is to create a single annual shot to bolster immunity for most people, but those with certain risk factors might need two. The FDA's Vaccines Advisory Committee is set to meet Thursday to discuss the plan.
Reports the FDA is considering offering yearly COVID-19 boosters. The agency wants to simplify the process to look more like the flu vaccine, saying most people may only need one dose of the latest COVID shot to restore protection. An advisory committee is scheduled to meet Thursday and will be asked to vote on
it's
the
interesting.
plan.
I had not gotten my COVID booster.
Mm-hmm. Which one? The fourth?
The fourth,
yeah.
Because, we went to London, then got COVID.
Yeah.
Got completely knocked down for a while.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
Months.
Exactly. Well, I wouldn't say months.
You were knocked down for months.
Months?
Yes.
I wouldn't say months.
No, it was a long time.
So anyway, weeks. Let's take just weeks. I think it was weeks. I was fatigued for a long time.
It took 3 months.
I'd say it's very interesting, though, because we're learning a lot more about what your resistance to COVID may be.
Yeah.
What was that? Back in September, just got my checkup. And the antibodies are like at 100% right now.
Interesting.
So it kind of works out. But again, we found out the boosters, the vaccines, they don't stop the disease, but they certainly do make a big impact. Instead of me being down for a month with fatigue, if I'd taken the booster, I would have probably sneezed and said, what was that? And kept going.
Exactly.
That's the difference. And so I love when people go, I'm not going to accuse the difference. So you still get COVID if you get that. No, that's not the purpose of it. That's never been the purpose of the flu shot. It builds up your resistance, just like actually getting COVID builds up your resistance.
Exactly. So keep you from going to the hospital.
So do yourself a favor, right? And get off the websites that Chinese religious cults are putting as a front so they can get a stronghold in America and in your mind, and get yourself a booster shot.
It's important.
You'll be glad you did.
One more headline for you.
I tell you, I will take the reporting of Epoch Times. See, that's a snarky thing, the Chinese cult, the Epoch Times, right? That's what he's talking about, and the great reporting they've done over the lies, misrepresentations, and spin and the blood on their hands of Morning Mika and Joe right there. And you talk about a change of direction. Remember, for a year and a half, they just hammered you every day. You had to do this for the good of the nation, for the transmissibility. You were selfish. You had to be. You couldn't go to school. You couldn't have your job. You couldn't play pro basketball in the National Football League. Over and over and over again. Right there. How brazen is that? It was never about getting the disease or transmissibility, but then you lied for almost 2 years. I want to start with, I've got Naomi Wolf. We have Mary Holland, the General Counsel of Children's Health Defense. Naomi, first off, congratulations, and I'm so glad this thing's kind of become a, because I talked to some people in publishing today, and they're like, hey, when did you guys start publishing books? I said, we actually didn't. We added the manpower, the muscle for Naomi and Daily Clout's Amy Kelly and the lawyers to get the work done, and they put the book out, and they're going, well, the book is the talk of the publishing industry. I think, I don't know, we're number 3, 4, 5 of books, not Kindles, of books. But as I talk to people who are buying it, it's like the Robert Kennedy book, which, had all the sexiness of a telephone book when it came out, but it sold $1.5 million. It sold 1.5 million copies. It was a phenomenon. Probably the biggest selling nonfiction book of that year. This is getting back, and it's not. These things are not particularly made to be accessible. Everybody talks about accessibility. This is fairly dense, but people can't get enough of it because they want to know facts. And right there, Morning Mika is the perfect example of why people are hungry for facts, because haven't they just radically changed the narrative on folks, Naomi Wolf?
It's so extraordinary to watch a segment like that. And what's really interesting to me is watching body language these days, because probably contractually, Mika can't say well, this is obviously nonsense. We're saying the opposite now to our audience than we said for a year and a half up till a couple of months ago. Remember when we were telling everyone it stopped transmission, it kept you from getting COVID. And when she reacted to Joe saying, well, of course, it's not supposed to stop COVID, right, with that hand gesture. She can't say you're full of nonsense. This is absurd. I can't believe I'm here mouthing these platitudes that are so false. But her whole body language was like, I am standing on the edge of a grave full of putrefying maggots, and I can't really say anything, but I'm recoiling from you and from what I have to say. And then when she kept saying, yeah, you were really sick. You were really sick. You have 3 or 4 boosters and you still got quite sick from COVID. You were out for 3 months. I mean, the subtext there was pretty clear to me. And this is why Freud was such an important figure in Western history. Truth comes out, right? And even if they're not allowed by contract to say, I realize now belatedly that I have been a spokesperson for the biggest attack on human health in human history, and I have blood all over my hands, and I'm really sorry, and I'm going to get down on my knees and beg forgiveness from the universe and from my audience. Nonetheless, the body expresses, the facial expressions express, and her inability to not say, you were super, super, super sick, and you told all these people, that getting this injection would solve all their problems in relation to COVID. That was fascinating. But yes, of course, I have to believe that the fact that we have a number 5 Kindle ebook nonfiction bestseller. We're snuggling up right there in new releases on Kindle nonfiction. We're right next to Prince Harry, as you mentioned, with the biggest PR campaign imaginable. And we have nothing but word of mouth of the good people on this show and other people who care about truth and science and medicine and care about their loved ones. It's phenomenal. And I have to believe that now that this, 500 to 700 page, depending on what format you use, Pfizer Documents, War Room, Daily Cloud Reports ebook is out there, climbing up the bestseller lists. If it stays up there on around number 5 for 6 more days, the legacy media has to put us in their bestseller lists, whether they want to or not. But that is just, 700 pages worth of straight up fact, medical analysis of the highest order based on primary source documents that Pfizer and the FDA colluded with, and they wanted to keep hidden for 75 years. So I have to believe that that's driving the spokespeople who took the money, just as we saw, into contortions like the ones we've seen. What else can you do?
I want to bring in Mary Holland for a second. And so, Mary, explain to me what is going on here. They're now, you guys are Mary's for Children's Health Defense. You've been at the tip of the spear of all this, of obviously COVID, but in also all vaccines. What's the game they're trying to play? Because they went through this whole rigmarole about emergency use authorization, the bivalent, booster. You can even see Joe Scarborough's right there when Mika turns to him. You haven't had your 4th, right? That even the spokesmodels for this have not been getting it. Are they trying to pivot for business reasons, liability reasons? Why all of a sudden it's going to become like that COVID goes from the thing that was killing everybody to now you just got to get an annual shot to pay big pharma big money? Why are they doing this, and how are they doing it?
Well, I would just point out that whatever the body language was, Mika and Joe just told people to go get their boosters. They are still sticking with the narrative that you need to keep getting your COVID shots. And we know these have been phenomenally lucrative for pharma, and yet we also know that they're not safe, they're not effective, they don't stop transmission, and they don't stop infection. So this is the pivot to normalize COVID. COVID is going to be here with us forever. And now we're going to take away the original shot. We're only going to have this bivalent, which is for the Omicrons and for the another strain. And what they're saying to us now, Steve, is every June they're going to come up with a new formulation. And they've already been testing flu and coronavirus vaccines together. What's most horrifying about this that people have to recognize is none of these shots since June 2022 have ever been tested on humans. They are literally making the human population the guinea pigs for these gene therapy shots. They're going to keep pushing this. That's very clear. There's the meeting at the FDA on Thursday, although there are some interestingly dissident voices, including Paul Offit, the primary spokesperson for vaccines for decades. But still, the VRBPAC is likely to vote. And if they don't vote in favor of this annual shot, the FDA will overrule their expert committee. And probably they know they have the votes lined up anyway. But they're moving now, they're pivoting to make COVID like flu. This is normalized. And then we're still waiting for the next pandemic. Not quite sure if they're going to pull out monkeypox or tuberculosis or measles, but for sure, the pandemic preparedness work that's being laid at the World Economic Forum, the World Health Organization, there will be more pandemics if the powers that be have anything to do with it.
Mary, hang on one second. I got a draft of what you're saying. Go back to Naomi. Naomi, I think your group and the work you're doing, she just goes there. It's not really tested on humans. At best, this is a failed beginning of a clinical trial. Since that is a demonstrable fact that the Children's Health Defense, who the experts there know, and you have proven to a public, how are we, you guys help me out, how are we having this meeting on Thursday? And how can this even be not on the front page of the New York Times and the Washington Post and the Times of London? Why are we perpetuating this? It's quite evident, as Mary said, demonstrable that it doesn't work. But even more important, it's not really been tested on humans. So it's June or 2020. How can this scam and how can this con continue on, ma'am?
Well, I want to wholeheartedly second what Ms. Holland just said. Absolutely, she's right that they're normalizing COVID and these injections. And what's so fascinating is this messaging is not, holy cow, you're not just going to have one shot, then the second shot, then one booster, then the second booster, and then you're done and COVID is over. But it's an amplification of now we expect it every year. We're going to roll it out every year. She's exactly right. And what I pointed out last night, and I want to point it out to all of you again, or maybe yesterday morning, who didn't watch it yesterday, is that these injections, it's not just a failed clinical trial, right, or an inadequate clinical trial, as Ms. Holland very rightly points out. I think it's a successful assault against human beings in the sense that these studies out of Hong Kong that were done in 2021 show that the first injection in mice causes significant damage, but the second injection causes catastrophic damage, heart enlargement, white patches on the heart, which, by the way, people are seeing in human beings now who have myocarditis. They don't understand it. Crystallizations on the heart. Well, it's right there in these studies coming out of Hong Kong. And what Dr. Chandler and others on our team and on other teams have found is that the lipid nanoparticles accumulate, as I mentioned when I was last on your show, in the ovaries as well as in other organs. And Dr. Chandler and our team have seen no method by which they leave the body. So you're getting some in your ovaries if you're female with first injection, more with the second injection, more with the third, more with the fourth. And then by the annual injection, you're just packing your organs with this industrial fat coated in polyethylene glycol. And as Dr. Chandler said, it's like a shotgun blast throughout the body. It biodistributes throughout the body. So I believe, as you know, that this is a bioweapon. I've done the reporting showing it's being manufactured in concert with the CCP. The IP and the tech went per SEC filing in 2021 to China. China's opened manufacturing plants all over Western Europe and now in North America. And so to me, it's just a slow way to debilitate, if not kill off, the population of North America and Western Europe. And I say that very conservatively and very advisedly. I think it's extraordinarily dangerous and terrifying that they're promoting this now as an annual thing. And, of course, they're going to rubber stamp it on Thursday because this advisory committee is wholly enthralled to the industry. As we exposed the last time we talked about the advisory committee, they were all upset that they hadn't been shown a critical document showing that they shouldn't okay the bivalent boosters, that was published in a peer-reviewed medical journal. And they were blaming the FDA for not showing it to them. The other thing I would like to note is that the Food and Drug Administration isn't supposed to be in the business of mandating or rolling out or injecting people with medicines. They're supposed to make sure they have a pretty conservative, narrow regulatory role. Ms. Holland can contradict me if this is not correct, but as I understand it, their job, the Food and Drug Administration, their job is just to make sure it's safe. They're not supposed to be saying, okay, it's not only safe, but we want you to take it. We want you to take it every year. We want you to, like, that's supposed to be up to your doctor. That's supposed to be between you and your doctor. Their only job is to make sure our food and drugs are safe.
So, Mary, given Naomi's, categorically improve, it's not safe. You mentioned the World Economic Forum. If we don't stop this here or use this evidence, this data, this science to thwart this effort, what's to stop Gavi and the Bill and Melinda Gates and the World Economic Forum? Of course, they're going to continue to come out with things because they're going to say, "Hey, where the evidence was so overwhelming, the people that opposed it just got steamrolled." So from Children's Health Defense perspective, what then is to be done?
Well, there's some good news here, Steve, that people are not listening to the FDA and the CDC anymore. So only 16% of adults have taken these boosters, and they've been available since August. So people are really wising up, despite all the marketing. People are also pushing back against the World Economic Forum. Elon Musk on Twitter just did a poll of 2.5 million people. What do you think of the World Economic Forum? Do you want them in control? And 80+% said, no, we do not want them in control of the world. So I think there is a pushback. Another thing I'd point to is that the Cleveland Clinic, very reputable mainstream medicine, came out with a study in the middle of December showing that every new dose you get, you're more likely to get COVID. Leave aside the heart attack risk, the stroke risk, the encephalitis risk, and all of those other very real, very serious risks that we see in the vaccine adverse event reporting system. We see that your risk of COVID increases. And Mika did basically let the cat out of the bag by saying, Joe, you were sick for 3 months after your third booster. He was obviously very sick. And there's also a very interesting recent mouse study that came out of China that shows that in humanized mice, after 4 shots, there's basically a collapse of the mice's immune system. So these shots are really dangerous. And I hope that that message is getting through to people who are still considering getting their annual COVID shot.
Naomi, what you've done so much, you're in courts, and I know Children's Health Defense is. If all this evidence is out there, peer-reviewed journals are coming out. I understand historically the big pharma has immunity on certain things like this, legal immunity. But isn't there a way for class action suits? Isn't there a way to go after the people that took the $1 billion the government ladled out? The New York Times, the MSNBC, which you just see these advertisements on every day about getting your booster. Isn't there an opportunity here for people that don't want to have it and have had their lives destroyed, whether they're in the military, whether the nurses, pilots, I mean, you name it, kids that had their senior year taken away from them, college kids, your beloved Yale. We're still in the countdown to the 31st where, hey, play me or trade me. You either get the bivalent or you don't go back to Yale. Isn't there some way for collective action here?
So, yes, it is really hard. And Ms. Holland is a lawyer, and she can speak very deeply to this. But many wonderful organizations, including ours and including theirs, as I understand it, are bringing lawsuits. We've got Scott Street and John Howard out of Los Angeles who have sued Pfizer for us, and exactly on this premise that they committed fraud on the American people. And we've got George Smith, who's moving ahead with a class action suit with plaintiffs out of Ohio. And as I've mentioned in the past, but more and more evidence accumulates with these now 52 reports from the Pfizer volunteers, the War Room Daily Clout volunteers. There are a number of crimes as well as civil causes of action. False advertising is a big one. And absolutely, arguably, our lawyers have said that media who have taken the money to defraud their audiences, to publish things that are not true about how safe and effective this injection is. And if people were harmed after that, they could also be liable for false advertising or for coercion of other kinds, because people were doing things they wouldn't have done if they had had free will and all of the information. And the last thing I would say is that in this country, it is against the law to withhold informed consent. All of those doctors all of those nurses, I mean, when I went to see an RN at One Medical, she said it was like being in a back alley. It's like, pot, uppers, downers. She was like, shingles vaccine, booster, like whatever vaccine I wanted. And she didn't give me any cautionary information, no side effects, no warning at all. That's not informed consent, and that's arguably unlawful. So yes, there are many causes of action in spite of the PrEP Act. But what I do want to say, I'm kind of a big believer in legislation because it's much cheaper. It's our right to pass legislation. It's how our system is supposed to work. And litigation is very expensive, civil litigation. So there are a number of bills. If you go on Bill Cam, you'll see the top trending bills. There are like 3 really good federal bills to take away legal impunity from vaccine manufacturers for the harms they've done. And people should pass those. Contact your representative, get them passed.
Well, we have Congressman Rosendale on here next, and we'll definitely ask him. On the legal side, Children's Health Defense has been at the tip of the spear. Is there any hope whatsoever that legal action start to? I mean, if the evidence is that overwhelming, it would seem to me you'd be able to husband this into some sort of court of law to take on big pharma and, quite frankly, big media and big tech that colluded together to do this, ma'am. This is, if proven in a court, it will be the biggest scandal in American history.
So like Ms. Wolf, we're certainly working on that. We have about 50 lawsuits in the works. We won a lawsuit last week against the New York State healthcare mandate, the mandate for all healthcare workers. And the judge found that the mandate, now that it's very clear that these shots don't stop infection or transmission, he held that the mandate was arbitrary and capricious. We haven't yet heard whether New York State is going to appeal that or not. We also just filed a lawsuit, I believe it was last week, against the Trusted News Initiative on behalf of Children's Health Defense, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and several other plaintiffs. And that's a case, it's an antitrust case, it's civil litigation, but it's against the BBC, against Reuters, against the Washington Post for colluding to silence voices like yours, Steve, to silence all of the independent press. And it's very clear that this is an existential threat to them economically, not just in terms of the orthodoxy. Yes, they've paired with the government. Yes, that's illegal and a violation of the First Amendment, but they've been doing this for commercial reasons as well, because they know that these smaller, truthful voices are attracting huge audiences. So we are absolutely fighting this. We have a case right now against Rutgers University, the first university to impose a mandate against students. That's now on appeal in the Third Circuit Court of Appeals. And I do believe that ultimately we will prevail in a lot of these lawsuits. But as Naomi says, they're expensive, they take time, and I do agree that legislative solutions are desirable. And we're also working with people in Washington. And I think increasingly, there are people who understand just how diabolical a lot of these agendas really are.
Well, particularly a lot of the people, the MAGA people in the House, definitely. By the way, to show that we work together, we got the great massive hit of the Robert Kennedy book, The Real Anthony Fauci, and of course Naomi's book, The Bodies of Others, in a box set. You can get that. I got to tell you, they're both amazing. The Kennedy book, with the blockbuster bestseller of 2021, correct? Just an incredible, right. Incredible book.
Children, sorry.
Do you say what?
I was going to say he's coming out with the Wuhan cover-up very soon, which is sort of the sequel to The Real Anthony Fauci.
No, Robert Kennedy Jr. and Children's Health Defense, along with Naomi and Daily Clout, are going to be major players in these investigations starts. So we're at the top of the first inning on this. I keep telling people we got a long way to go. Big pharma, big tech, and big media. They're dug in hard on this one. You can tell by this flip to the annual. Now we're going to do it annually. They're dug in hard, and it's going to take the courts and legislation to dig them out. It's got to be a people's movement. Mary, we got to bounce. How do people get to social media and how they get to Children's Health Defense?
So childrenshealthdefense.org is our main website. We have a daily newsletter that's free, The Defender. We have CHD TV. We have about 20 hours of content a week, and we're on Twitter. And Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is on Twitter. So please come join us. We welcome you.
Mary, thank you. Thank you all the great work you're doing. And thank you for the kind words about the independent journalism. Naomi, how do people we got to get this book number one. We got to top Princess Harry Hewitt in the ratings. Is that catty enough? Am I bitchy enough right there? How did they get to the book? How did they get to you, ma'am?
Yeah, it's so important. I want to thank everyone. You took this book from 250,000 slots down to now number 5 on Kindle nonfiction in like 3 days. It's unbelievable. I think unprecedented in publishing in my experience. We need you to keep it in the top 5 for 6 more days, and then the mainstream media will have to face the facts that they've been lying about for 2 years. So you go to Amazon, you look up War Room Daily Clout Pfizer Documents book, and you just go ahead and order it. And by the way, you can gift it, right, with an email. So you can gift it to your loved ones who don't want to hear. You can gift it to your representative. You can gift it to Rochelle Walensky. And also please support Children's Health Defense as well as Daily Clout, because they're doing heroic work, and it's expensive and laborious work. They're heroes. They really are.
Naomi, thank you. Honored to have you on here. Great work. Look forward to having you back. Short break. Todd Bensman on the border and Congressman Matt Rosendale next.
Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, welcome back. I want to go to Todd Bensman. Todd, I want to make sure people understand these numbers are so massive that are coming out about what actually happened at the border, the December numbers. I want you to go through it here in a second. But you've explained this to people. It's going to happen. And now we're going to get into this pitched battle of the impeachment of Mayorkas and all this. And I want you to explain to people once again how you called this shot months ago, but it's going to start manifesting itself pretty quickly in lower numbers at the border when, in fact, we're actually having more illegal immigration. So walk us through that, sir.
Sure. Well, I've got a piece out in Newsweek today that is describing the whole scam, and it is quite scammy, this thing. What they're doing is the administration has created a new extra-legal parallel immigration admittance system inside Mexico, south of the border, where they are now pre-legalizing thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of immigrants that would have crossed the border, but now they're going to give them something called humanitarian parole, which is not legally used in this context, and they're going to walk them through the ports of entry so that they come off the illegal entry statistics. What they'll do then is tell you that, look what we've done, we've reduced the illegal entry statistics. Everything's great, don't worry about it. But the amount by which they reduce those statistics will be coming in anyway through the port of entry, outside of the view of news drones and outside of your ability to even count them up. We're still trying to figure out how they're going to be doing the accounting, where they're going to be keeping track of this. But it's already begun. The numbers down there from my sources on the border are already kind of down to the Trump era numbers coming across illegally between ports of entry. That's not because they're not coming. Remember, that's not because they're not coming. They're just coming over here instead through the ports of entry. It's a sleight of hand. It's a Houdini trick. It's an accounting fraud. Don't buy into it. They're still coming in. You're going to see cities across the country declaring emergencies still and asking for federal bailouts and permanent transformation to the United States.
Give me the December number, because I want to talk about the illegal aliens that are here. And we've got a team, remember, and Ben Berquam, Michael Yan, and Oscar Blue Ramirez will hopefully be with us tomorrow. They're in the middle of the Darien Gap right now. Remember, they're taking this journey all the way from the border of Venezuela and Colombia all the way up. to show you how dangerous it is. And quite frankly, the stunning thing, Todd, as you know, you've been down there, is now how it's metastasized. It's gotten bigger because the whole world, these people are very sophisticated. The cartels are obviously sophisticated, but the folks are too. They all have cell phones. They understand the gate's open right now. And now they've set up this extra legal, which means not really legal, system. The Biden regime has gamed the system. First off, the asylum system was never set up for this. These people are economic migrants. That means they are not eligible for asylum, but they've gamed the entire system. Before I let you go, Todd, I want to make sure people understand the December number that just came in and how massive that was.
It's the biggest number we've ever seen. It might be the last time you see a number that big in the illegal entry category, at least for a while. It was 250,000, 250,000. That included 221 that were apprehended illegally crossing in the month of December, and 30,000 crossing through the ports of entry. The 30,000, I should mention, used to be a year ago was like 2,000, 3,000 a month. 30,000. I suspect that what's happening is that those are some of the people that are being escorted in. I don't have that confirmed yet. I'm doing everything I can to confirm that that's what that number is. That number is shooting straight up like an arrow. So that might be the number to keep an eye on to be able to see how they're
how many
doing.
Before I go to Matt Rosendale, how many gotaways? That's the 250 that were apprehended of the illegal. That all 80% got in the country. How many gotaways?
So the gotaways for December was upwards of 90,000, the biggest ever. And I think we're going to start seeing a crisis of gotaways and runners because the new system is going to create these long, people are lining up by the thousands already. There's video out there in Mexican media, none in the U.S. media not covering this. And those people are going to not want to wait. They're going to just make a run for it. And a lot of other people are ineligible for this thing. They can't get the documents.
And people are going to, more people are going to die, more women and children. 300,000 here
too.
Unaccompanied minors already. I just want to make sure people understand. In the Ukraine right now, where they're talking about, this war metastasizing, in the Ukraine, the British have admitted they can't put forward one combat division. They don't have enough men to put up one combat division. If you add the gotaways and the illegals that were actually caught at the border, that's 340,000 in 1 month. That is 34 combat divisions. 34 combat divisions. That is twice the number of people, or time and a half the number of people that landed on June 6th, 1944 at Normandy. That is bigger. 340,000 is bigger than Patton's entire Third Army was only about 300,000 men. This is the scale. This is scale that's never been seen before. Todd, we got to bounce. I need to know where to get your new book and where to get your social media and all your writings, Newsweek's, to be complimented. This is an incredible story. Nobody else does it. You got it. They got to get it and read it. Where do they go?
Yeah, well, go see Newsweek today. My piece is in there. But you can find all of my work at toddbensman.com. My new book will be coming out in less than a month now. It's called Overrun. That is available for pre-order now. If you pre-order it now, it'll show up at your door. That is all about this border. It's the battle plan for how to get out of this thing.
We are going to get out of this thing. Todd, thank you very much, from Center for Immigration Studies, and one of the leading voices on the mathematics and the crisis of the invasion of this country. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Congressman Matt Rosendale from Montana. Sir, when you hear these kind of numbers, and particularly the folks in Montana that are among the hardest working people in this country, how does it set with them when you hear that you've had 340,000 either illegal entries at the border stopped or 90,000 gotaways, which I think the number's still another time and a half. That 340,000 in 1 month, sir.
That's a third of our entire population of my state, Steve. We have had, since the Biden administration took over, almost 5 times the total population of the state of Montana enter into our country illegally, either in the form of gotaways or folks that have had encounters with law enforcement down there on the border. I talk to my attorney general on a regular basis, and he attributes pretty much all of our increase in crime, drug apprehensions, human trafficking, all due to the porous southern border. This is a disaster. It's a catastrophe. Use whatever language that you would like to, but it's permeating throughout the entire country. And I just bumped into some Border Patrol guys on Monday when I was flying back to Washington, D.C. from Great Falls, Montana, and they were flying down to train new Border Patrol agents on admitting people into our country. It's like they're travel agents now. It's really bad.
This is only going to stop when the people of this country saying we can't allow this anymore, because this is not, they've gamed, the Biden regime has gamed the asylum system. Our system was never set up for this. Or do you think people have finally had enough of it, that they're saying, because it's not being covered by the media? We pride ourselves in being one of the voices that put forward the math. Are people finally tired of it? You think they've had enough?
Some. It depends on where you are. It's like anything else around this country. The places that are experiencing these terrible human trafficking and the drug and people living in the streets, yeah, they're completely tired of it. Even the Democrats within those cities that are living there, and the Democrats that are leaving. I mean, I saw on the news this morning that Yuma's getting ready to declare a state of an emergency because they're getting ready to have a collapse of the entire city. So there are places around the country that have had enough, but there's a lot of other places that are still buffered or protected from it. They don't see what's taking place in the shadows, Steve. They don't see the drug transactions. They may not have witnessed the overdoses from fentanyl, and lost a family member or a friend. And unfortunately, those folks are not really ready to admit that there is a tragedy that's taking place on our southern border yet.
Do you think the House, you were one of the Magnificent Six that hung in there and really in the 5 days that changed the direction of this country? Do you believe that the Republican House is actually going to take tough measures now, and not performative, not just put up messaging bills, but you think that they're under Speaker McCarthy prepared to take action on this?
I know I am, and I know that there's a lot of people that are, and I certainly hope that Speaker McCarthy takes and uses us as a tool, if you will, to be able to force changes in the administration. It's not just funding, but we will have to tie most of these decisions to the budgeting process or to the debt ceiling. Again, either which way, it's going to be tied to financial obligations and measures that the administration wants to put forward, and we're going to have to tie those immigration reforms and the security of our border to those provisions. We know what to do. I mean, there's no question about it. We can put the Remain in Mexico policy, make it statutory. I introduced legislation to do that 18 months ago, for Pete's sakes, to say when people come into our country and they claim asylum, that they have to wait in Mexico until they have a hearing to make a determination if they can actually enter our country with asylum status. And just by doing that, you had 75% of the people that were waiting to adjudicate their asylum status went back to their countries of origin. And it also slows down the flow of people that are coming into our country trying to claim asylum. So we have to take measures like that. It's not just to make sure that the CBP has more officers, that they have more facilities, that they have more resources, because all that will do is give them the ability to process people faster, release them into our country faster, and then just accelerate the number of people that are coming to our country trying to get in illegally.
You know, we pride ourselves that this is the largest activist show in the country. I want to give them a little inside baseball. So you're saying going forward, because they took the gavel out of speakers' hands with the omnibus, which I know the folks in Montana are outraged about. But you're saying in this process of going through budgeting and appropriations this year and the debt ceiling, which is upon us, and that's going to be a negotiation, in one of those two methods that deals with money that can actually choke down DHS, your belief is that in one of those two, or a combination of both, that we're going to start to see the Republican, MAGA, populist, nationalist policies to save the sovereignty of the country will be in those, in the debt, where that's the leverage, and certain of these points are going to be non-negotiable. Is that my understanding from you?
That is the only place that we're going to be able to use that we will have leverage, and that we will be able to use the leverage in order to change the policy. We will put forward bills, and you're going to see that, and it's basically going to lay down the agenda of what the Republicans want to achieve between now and it looks like they're going to really have to make some serious decisions about the debt ceiling in late May or June. Until that time, they're going to be able to shift funding around, and then the budget, because of the omnibus being passed, we're going to have funding available through September. So that means August, September, we'll have some conversations about what to do there. But you'll see the legislation that gets passed between now and then, Steve, that basically lays down what the agenda needs to be in order to resolve this problem. But until we can tie it to those spending provisions, that's when we can force the issue.
What, if it hadn't been for you six and then your other 14 colleagues, what we call the 20 and the 6, this country right now would be in a very different arc. You heroes saved this country, right? Was it perfect? No, it was not perfect. But what if folks, I just want to make sure, what are folks back in Montana telling you about your stand during those really incredibly historic 5 days?
I was really pleased. I spent all last week back traveling around the state, and I went to Yellowstone County and Gallatin County and Lewis and Clark County and Cascade County. So we're talking about a bunch of very diverse areas. So Billings and Bozeman and Helena and Great Falls. And there was an outpouring of support for what we were able to accomplish. And it was about the rules. The folks understand. They tuned in to C-SPAN. They watched what was actually taking place without a filter, and what they heard was that there was a big battle about restoring regular order to the House of Representatives, to allow all bills that were passed in committee to be brought out to the floor, to allow the members of Congress to amend those bills if they had something that was germane to the subject matter to the bill, to require bills to only have one subject to be discussed instead of having these 4,000, 4,500 page documents with so many provisions jammed within them, including 7,000 earmarks. That is not going to be acceptable any longer. And to make sure that the members have 72 hours, true 72 hours, to review legislation before they are asked to take a vote upon it. And so when they see that, and they see that we were relinquishing or distributing the power from the Speaker and from the Select Rules Committee, this group of people that were selected by the Speaker, that everyone was going to have an equal voice, and they understood that, they were very overwhelmingly supportive of it.
What is in the 3 areas: investigation, spending, and debt ceiling? What do you bring back from your time back among your constituents? What did they tell Matt Rosendale? This is our strongest recommendation of what to do, sir.
So they understand that we can do a lot of investigation. However, we are still going to be dependent upon the Department of Justice, who we're going to be investigating, to charge and prosecute people. So they do not want us to consume all of our time there, and to address the national security issues and the debt ceiling and the fiscal issues equally. So, I look at a ratio of probably about 20% for investigative purposes, and then the other 80% to actually address good legislation and this fiscal issues that we're going to be facing over the next year.
They try to keep the working folks, and they keep middle class. It's really to make this so obscure. But you're saying out in Montana, they understand this debt ceiling is the fight, and they want you in on that fight?
Oh, absolutely. And what they understand is that the debt ceiling is just one of those leverage points. The president still there's revenue that comes in every day, Steve. And once you hit the debt ceiling, that doesn't mean that bills don't get paid. What it means is that you can't borrow any more money. And so you still have revenue that comes into the federal government every day. And all of a sudden, it puts the president in a position where if we do not start directing what bills are going to get paid, then the president makes decisions about what bills are going to be paid. So, of course, you start prioritizing your Medicare, your Social Security, your national defense, and you make sure that all those things are covered. And the spread between what you have revenue for and what actually isn't available is not really that big. And that's why when you heard last week that we're bumping up against the debt ceiling, and Secretary Yellen now is starting to, shift some of those payments around that we're going to be able to pay bills through May. But I will also tell you this, that there's not a banker in this country that would look at this balance sheet that is owned by the United States government. And if you took the name of the United States government off of it and just said John Doe is $31 trillion in debt and the hole is getting deeper and has done nothing to address the debt load and the repayment schedule, the banker wouldn't renew that loan. So we as a Congress have to start making decisions about what we really need to be spending money on. And when they talk about mandatory spending, there's a lot more that has been shifted over to mandatory spending than just Social Security and Medicare. Every time a piece of legislation gets passed now, they're trying to push that onto the mandatory side of the ledger so that they never have to review it again. And we must start reviewing all of that legislation and all of those obligations and to find out if they're actually accomplishing anything and are they the role of government anyway.
We've only got a minute. I've got to ask you, your colleague Jim Banks announced at the beginning of the year, he was on the show last week about running for the Senate in Indiana. You went through the state. Can you just give us an update on your timing and when you're going to make a decision? You have many fans that watch this show.
Yeah, we've had a lot of time. I've always said that I simply want to serve where I can be the most effective for my community. And that means my county, my state, my nation. And right now, we've got some really big battles to come ahead. And I want to make sure that we put the strongest candidate possible forward to defeat John Tester. Because, Steve, I know, and the people of Montana know, he doesn't represent Montana. And so we must replace him. And I'm just all in for making sure we put the best candidate possible forward. And if people think that maybe they would like to give me some advice, at Rep Rosendale, they can reach me.
Okay, we're going to put that into all the chat rooms. You got that one down now. The comms team has got you up to speed. Congressman, really, really thankful that you came on here. You're a big hero to this audience, so thank you so much for taking time away. We know you're busy.
Thanks for spreading the word, Steve. We appreciate you.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're going to start all over again. It's going to be on fire. We'll see you then.